What is up, my lovely people in Blue Tablet land? So for today's video, guys, I'm going to be drawing y'all this haunted castle. If that's something you guys are interested in, stick around and let's get started. So I'm first going to start out by drawing this tower looking shape, which is going to be the center point for this illustration. And when I was actually thinking about drawing the whole castle and all that, the thoughts that I had in mind were the Whipstaff Manor, and I kind of called it castle at the time because I didn't know any better, but it's actually a manor apparently, and it's different from a castle. And then we have Walt Disney, which is the obvious castle, and then the animated castle, which is the one in Beauty and the Beast. So for this illustration, I kind of wanted to take into account all of those attributes of those illustrations, whether they be the real ones from Walt Disney and obviously the Whipstaff one, which is, I don't know if it was a real one or if it was just a set, and kind of take all of that and kind of put it into this illustration over here to demonstrate, or to illustrate rather, the haunted castle of Halloween. Ooh. When it comes to castles, I think the craftsmanship and everything that kind of goes into building them must have been really amazing for the time, because I think another thing that you can compare, I don't know if it's a correct comparison, but will also be the pyramids in Egypt, because when you think of both of these structures, both of them have got some uniqueness to them that kind of sets them apart from anything else that you've possibly seen. I mean, yes, castles have got dungeons and they've got rooms, and they've got like the west wing and the east wing, kind of like in the anime Beauty and the Beast. And then you have the pyramids, which are just these magnificent triangular shaped things that kind of were built many years ago. And supposedly, if you are in outer space, apparently you can see them, which I don't know if that's true, but that would be something really unique to look at if you ever got an opportunity to go to space, which is not something that everybody does. But I don't know, I was just thinking about all of these thoughts when I was drawing these castle for today. But I think when it comes to anything that is real estate related, I think whether it be a castle or whether it be a penthouse or whether it be any sort of structure, I think the story that goes behind it kind of really holds importance in the aspect of how the structure was built, and who were the people that were involved in the process of building it and all that. So that's why I felt like when I was drawing this, I kind of wanted to give it that nice ancient kind of charm. So it kind of looks like, it's got that raw, earthy build with that stones and I don't know, whatever they built them from during the day, during that time. But that's kind of what I wanted to capture for the illustration. On my other channel, Blue Cranium, which is the one where I draw all skeletons and skulls, I've started a playlist where I kind of take skeletons and place them in different rooms. So the first one was called the Blue Cranium Cafe, which is kind of like the cafe as the name goes. The second one was kind of like a nice penthouse view, and it was overlooking the ocean. And then the last one, or the third one rather, not the last, was some sort of skeleton sitting in a repair shop to kind of signify the whole repair process and how things are getting fixed on him. But the whole point of me telling you that is just to repeat and reiterate the whole thing of drawing structures and like how I'm drawing the castle over here. So that's something I just wanted to tell you guys. But I think, as I said, when it comes to castles and anything of that nature, I think the story behind how they were built and how the blueprinting must have been at the time, or if there was any sort of blueprints, obviously not, but it's just amazing how they probably built these things without the use of modern tools. So for the remaining of the illustrations that are going to follow on this Halloween playlist, and also to kind of save a little bit of time, I'm going to show you 95% of what I'm doing in each illustration, and then just kind of like, tell you what I'm doing. And I don't know if that made any sense, but as you can tell now, once I'm done with the line art layer, I'm not really going to show you how I did the actual detail work, because I think that would kind of take too much time, and it's just applying lines in different areas of the illustration to signify like some sort of depth and texture, and that's totally up to you and how you want to do it when you do the illustration. So this is the line art I ended up doing for the castle to kind of give it that Halloween kind of horror castle look. And for the color over here now, I decided to go with like a darkish gray, so it would not be like a jet black, but you could actually see what's going on and actually see the line art, and you can actually do some shading when it comes to the whole castle in particular. For the lights now, or not for the lights, but kind of like the windows, I chose this yellow. So it almost shows like as if there were candles lit inside the castle, and if you were on the outside looking in, this is kind of what it would look like. And then go ahead and touch up that gray. And now we have the basic colors for the castle. For the main door, or whatever that's called, kind of used a brown to kind of show like that's where the entrance of the castle is. And also a little bit of brown for the actual mud on the outside, so it doesn't look like the castle is floating in midair. Since the door looked like the same color as the mud, I went ahead and changed it to a different color of gray. And then just gave an accent for that top window. So now for the shading over here, what I was telling you guys earlier is I did two kinds of shading. So for this particular one, I went ahead and did the shading at around, I want to say 40%. And the reason I did that is so that way when I do my other grade of shading, it'll show that there is a gradient kind of a look going on, when in reality all I'm doing is just using the line art layer and just changing out the opacity. And again, this is something that you guys can try on your own. You can try it at 30, 40, 50 even, and just see what or rather how it turns out, and if you like it. And as I said, in my previous videos, there's no perfect way to shade, and there will never be one way in which you can shade. I mean, everybody has their own way of shading, and this is just what I chose to show you guys today. And if you'll try something new, let me know and tell me how it turned out, and if you liked it and what you liked about it. And then over here, I decided to use the selection tool, and that's another cool way to shade, because then you can get a unique kind of appearance to the illustration that you're doing. I mean, it doesn't matter that I'm doing this castle over here, but for anything else also, you can actually use the same technique and get a nice unique shadow and line work, or the outline, I would say, of the actual shadow. But just continue doing piece by piece of the illustration. And usually what I do when I'm doing my other illustrations for my other channel or anything else in particular, I usually like to start on one section and slowly work my way through the illustration. That way I don't miss a piece. But for this, because of time, I kind of kept going back and forth, so that way you guys would understand what I'm doing, and y'all can apply the same techniques when y'all do your own illustration, whether it be digitally or drawing it out in an actual drawing book. Another thing I forgot to mention is when I was doing this illustration, all that I've done up until now, is that if you have something going on in the background, and like you actually have a background and it's not just a flat color, then the shadows of those things would also be cast or be part of the illustration. So it's kind of you got to keep that in mind when you're doing these shading, or the shading in general as per the illustration. So anyway, now for the second line of shading, this is what I did. I went ahead and made another layer and took the opacity to about 50%. So what it ends up doing is, you can see there's different opacity going on in this, or this, not different opacity, but you can see the percent that changes, and you can actually see how it creates like a little darker version and a little lighter version, and then it actually shows the actual tower per se, so then when you look at it from a distance, it actually has like a nice cylindrical kind of look to it, even though it's on a flat surface. You don't really have to stop at like the 2 layers and do only that of shading, but you can actually add more than 2 layers. I mean, you can do 3, you can do 4, you can do 5, and you can even do 6. And it all depends on what you're shading and how far do you want that shadow to pop and how realistic you're going. I mean, is it going to be like a surreal look? Is it going to be something that is almost, it looks like as if it's realistic, obviously. And and that's the magic of shading, as opposed to just leaving it at flat colors. And sometimes when I'm not recording and I browse Pinterest, which is my favorite place to look up pictures and ideas and just see what else is out there in the whole art world, it's kind of cool to come across illustrations that other artists have done, especially when it comes to shading, and to see the level of detail and how far you can push an illustration to actually look real in the whole digital aspect of drawing nowadays. Because I mean, when you think about traditional stuff, I mean, there are certain limitations as to how far you can go. But with the digital canvases, I mean, there is really no limit. I mean, there are things you can draw that look so realistic. And I mean, like, I don't know if I've said this in another video, but there is this artist that I follow on Instagram, and his channel name is Drawholic, and he's a Korean artist. And this guy's ability to draw and shade and just draw characters in general is just out of this world. I mean, his level of detail and how realistic this thing looks once it's actually said and done is just amazing. But anyway, so now we are down to the actual highlights. So for this, I kind of wanted to emphasize the windows and show the light from the candles coming in, so that's kind of like the glow what you see. And then on the top of it, of the tower, I just kind of wanted to show this glow on the actual tower, kind of like maybe from the sun hitting the tower. And as I said, these are just suggestions of where the highlights could be, because I mean, this is just a cartoon illustration of an actual horror castle. But it's truly up to you where you want to put the whole highlights and how everything is going to end up looking, and I said, it depends. I mean, if you're doing realistically, or if you're drawing something realistically, the level of highlights would change. And every illustration is different, and at the end of it all, I mean, you're just having fun and you're trying to better your skills each day as you go. So that's at least what I'm doing. So these illustrations are obviously for you guys, but it also teaches me what I can do and how much I can change and how I can improve with every new illustration that I do. So for the door of the castle, I kind of did some highlights, but then I kind of thought like, doesn't look that good. So I kind of undid it and went back up to the windows. And as I said, that's the cool part about digital animation. I mean, not digital animation, but digital drawing, is if you make a mistake, you can just double tap it and undo it. But now if this was a actual traditional piece and I did that, I would have to find somehow to make it part of the illustration, or kind of blend it, or kind of use that as maybe a design or something, But as I said, there's more of a learning curve when you do traditional than it is digital, because I mean, with digital it's very forgiving, and I think that's probably why there'll be always a debate as to that most people say that digital art is not real and it's not fake. I mean, it's all fake, and it can be illustrated and copied, and while all that is true, there are so many things that you can do that is positive with digital art that you cannot do with the traditional. Like a good example would be is, say you can actually draw out the rough sketch and actually scale it up to the size that you do want if you want to do a transfer onto an actual canvas. So that's one good point about it. But well, we're not here to talk about all that right now. But anyway, guys, go ahead and wrap this video up and say thank you to all my followers for following along, and all the new people. I hope you guys enjoyed this castle, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.